Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Gillespie.
I am the other host, Dan Wyatt. We are far from qualified, and this is Into the Conjurverse.
Before we get started, we wanted to take a quick moment and talk about Buzzsprout, our podcast hosting site.
Yeah, Buzzsprout is sick as hell. Like when we first started searching about how to make podcasts, Buzzsprout was one of the first things. They have articles, forums. They have so many resources to help you get started.
They made it so easy.
Yeah, and to help you along the way, like getting our episodes into the directories. Finding affiliates and sponsors. Like it's an insane website. It's so good, and it's like one of the cheapest as well.
Yeah.
So we just wanted to shout them out real quick, and we do have an affiliate link with them. If you sign up after your second paid invoice, you get a $20 Amazon gift card.
Yeah.
So it's basically like you're just getting a $20 Amazon gift card, in exchange for, some free podcast hosting.
Yep.
So yeah, just if you're interested in podcasting, I highly recommend Buzzsprout. Its shit is awesome.
Yeah, go check out the link in the episode description. All right, welcome back everybody. And happy Halloween.
Happy fucking Halloween.
Yes, sir.
Let's
happy
go.
Halloween, man.
We did not plan this.
Spooky season in absolute full effect.
Oh, yeah.
Episode 7, perfectly planned.
Right.
We
didn't plan this.
The penultimate episode, and it's Halloween.
Don't let them lie. We didn't plan it, but it was awesome. It's sick that an episode fell on Halloween when we're talking about spooky movies.
We're
stuff.
Going as Ed and Lorraine for Halloween. Eager to hear what you guys are going to be for Halloween, or what you were for Halloween, since you're hearing this on the day of, maybe.
The day of.
So
on this glorious Halloween.
Yeah, The Conjuring 2.
Conjuring 2. In my opinion, the best Conjurverse movie. Like 100%.
Sure. We've now seen all of them because we watched The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It, in theaters
earlier this year.
Yeah.
So before we even concocted this idea.
Yeah. I'm not sure which one is my absolute favorite just yet, but
well, this one's the best.
That's respectable. Yeah.
that's completely. I mean, I'm not wrong on that. So
yeah. Well,
if you have a different opinion, you're wrong. So
talking to me or them?
Everyone.
Okay.
Everyone involved.
Well, since it's your favorite, maybe we should just get right into it, and we can maybe talk more about spooky season later. So The Conjuring 2 was released in 2016 as the third film in the Conjurverse, following the success of The Conjuring and Annabelle, right?
Yeah.
It's directed by James Wan, our guy James Wan.
That's our boy. Written
by James, Chad, and Carrie Hayes as well.
Yep.
James Wan also produced it, so he
does it all.
He played a role in every part of this movie. Peter Safran and Rob Cohen as well.
I think James just does that on the Conjuring films because they're like his babies. I mean, they were a James Wan film back in the day, and so I think, that's just his children.
Yeah. So this one again reprises Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson's roles as Lorraine and Ed, respectively.
What the hell is that? Ed and Lorraine. Sorry, he's new.
And we also see Frances O'Connor as Peggy Hodgson in this movie. Hodgson. Sorry, it's hard to say. She's a UK actress that we really didn't recognize from too much stuff. She was in Artificial Intelligence and Timeline, etc. We also have Madison Wolfe as Janet. She's a newer actress. She's known for True Detective, Zoo, and I Kill Giants. Mm-hmm. And we have, Bonnie Aarons as the nun, who we didn't shout out in our nun episode.
Yeah.
But we totally should have, because whenever I looked her up, I was horrified. I suggest, if you're listening to this, no, Bonnie, you're incredible. Absolutely. You're awesome. But if you're listening to this, stop what you're doing and Google Bonnie Aarons, if you can, as the nun or the nun actress, and just, look at her face.
She has a very distinctive face, and it's perfect for roles like the nun.
Yeah.
No offense to Bonnie. Incredible actress.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just very interesting.
I would love to
face.
meet Bonnie one
Absolutely.
day.
I'd love to have a picture with her. Get an autograph. That would be sick.
In full costume. This movie had a production budget of $40 million, which is high on the high side for our Conjurverse movies, and brought in $320 million. So incredible investment.
Worth the investment. Maybe the highest that we've talked about so far. I bet The Conjuring 3 will have a higher one. Just just going off of
The
how
hype.
much shit that they do, in that movie.
Yeah. So, now that we've gotten through all that, if you haven't seen the movie and you want to see it, you could stop now and go watch it. It's available to stream on HBO Max, Netflix, Apple TV, etc. And we're going to be going into the plot of the movie, so there's spoiler alerts, of course. And additionally, there are some triggering content that we'll talk about. There is some triggering content. So if you want to check out the trigger warnings for this film, go to doesthedogdie.com for a list of specific trigger warnings for The Conjuring 2.
Yep, that's our unofficial sponsor, doesthedogdie.com. Beautiful website.
Thank you, Does the Dog Die.
Thank you so much, doesthedogdie.com.
So let's get into the summary. So we opened this movie in Amityville, Long Island, New York in 1975. The famous or infamous Amityville sort of horror case, if you want to call it that. So Ed and Lorraine are sitting with the Lutz family in the Amityville home, where a year earlier Ronald DeFeo Jr. murdered his family with a shotgun. And so the Lutz family claims that they were experiencing paranormal phenomena. So the Warrens, we see them conducting a seance, and Lorraine in the seance, she has a vision where she's kind of herself in Ronald's position on the night of the murders, and she is sort of committing the acts as him, walking through the house.
Good scene.
It was really cool, yeah. This is the first time we see her encounter the nun, essentially. And we also see in the corner of a dark basement or dark room, we see a man sort of dying. It kind of looked like something maybe
stabbed through.
Kind of through his chest. She screams and snaps out of her vision, and Ed kind of comforts her after that.
Yeah.
So that was our opening scene, and then we're shot 3 years later in Enfield, England, and we meet the Hodgson's family. Janet, who is one of the kids, she has a sister Margaret and two younger brothers, and her mother Peggy. They all live alone in sort of a tiny flat in England.
I think it's decently sized. It's it's upstairs, downstairs. It's one of those over there. The homes mostly go up instead of outward.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it might be an apartment technically as well. But
yeah. So we first see Janet at school with her friend, and they've made a homemade Ouija board.
I highly recommend.
Later that night when she gets home, they
played with it. Nothing at all happened on the board, and she's like, "Fuck," So
that's right.
They literally set it. I thought we were gonna see the board moving under the bed. We never did.
We never did.
That's kind of gay.
We should have watched this movie last night. No, I'm just kidding. But so yeah, they just put the Ouija board away. But that night we see Janet sort of in a sleep, she's kind of sleeping, kind of half not sleeping. She's mumbling and
kind of sleepwalking.
Yeah, exactly. And we hear her, presumably her, but a voice that says, "This is my house," right? And her sister Margaret hears that coming from her, so she thinks she's kind of fooling around. And so she kind of gets up, and she kind of checks on Janet, where she hears, "This is my house" from behind her, and it's a very it's
an old man voice,
raspy voice. So that was our first instance of spook, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So another day, Janet and one of her younger brothers, Billy, they're playing with
it's a zoetrope.
A zoetrope, exactly. I couldn't think of the word. And it has like this Crooked Man kind of image on it, and there's a song, a tune. There was a Crooked Man that I wasn't familiar with.
No,
but they're
UK thing.
Yeah, they're kind of singing and playing with that. So at night we see this kind of reoccurring thing where Janet she sleepwalks, right? So she's tying herself to the bed, and she'll wake up in the floor in the living room or in other places of the house, and she doesn't know how she got there.
Yeah.
We also see Billy, who was playing with the zoetrope. He's walking around the house and he sees a toy fire truck on the floor. So he takes it and he kind of rolls it down the hallway into a tent that they have made, just like a little play blanket tent. Yeah. And naturally, it rolls back out to him down the hall. So he goes and checks it out, and there's a nice, was it a growl? Kind of a groan that was heard. It was kind of
nasty little noise.
Yeah. So we continue to see, the kids, tormented by "This is my house" ghost. That's what what we'll call him now.
Yeah, that's all. That's the only thing that we've gotten from this ghost that's like the motive that we see is it sounds like an old grouchy man that's pissed off that people are in his house. Like that's the gist.
Yeah, Janet would be in the living room, and there was a chair in the corner that the remote would be missing from where it was, and it would appear in the chair, etc. So they try to tell. So they'll get spooked, and they try to tell their mom, and their mom is like, "You guys need to, calm down. Have you been?" And then she finds the Ouija board, and she says, like, "Have you been messing with this? You know not to mess with this." And so they're in Janet and Margaret's room, and she's like saying, basically, this stuff's not real. And that's when a dresser slides across the floor and slams the door, almost trying to trap them in here. And then she's completely convinced.
That's all it took. She's like, holy shit.
Yeah. So they decide they're going to go stay with their neighbors across the street, the Nottinghams, and they call the police. The police initially don't find anything, but then they see a chair slide across the room, and so they're like, okay, well, there might be something here, but we can't do anything.
Right, yeah. They're like, well, we'll give you a report. We'll make an official statement saying we saw that chair move, but we're police officers. We can't do anything.
Yeah. So meanwhile, back in the States, at the Warren house, Ed and Lorraine are going about their day. Ed is painting a picture, and when he's painting like on an easel, right?
Canvas,
on a canvas. And so when we see the camera pan across, we see who we know as the nun, right?
And he's a painter as well. Like he actually, he just paints all the time. There's a bunch of canvases and stuff in his office.
When Lorraine sees it, however, she immediately recognizes it as the nun she saw in her vision. So she immediately kind of becomes on edge. And later, Lorraine is sitting in the living room with Judy, and they hear a noise down the hall, and Judy goes to look, and Lorraine gets up to follow her, they look down the hall, and it's the nun at the end of the hallway who walks into, was it Ed's office that they walked into? Yeah. So Lorraine follows the demon in there and sees that Ed has hung up the painting on the wall. Really cool scene.
Super sick.
Yeah, and the painting, we see like the eyes glow, and then the nun eventually
she turns the light on, and it's just the painting.
Yeah.
But then the nun, like we see like a shadow on the wall kind of go to the painting.
Yep, and then grab the painting off the wall and kind of sprint towards Lorraine. It was kind of cool.
And that whenever it like got to her, that's when she saw that same vision at the Amityville house.
So she's back in the vision, and this time she recognizes the man who is in the corner, who is impaled, and it's Ed, who just says, "I'm sorry, Lorraine," and he gets kind of stabbed to the chest, and she starts screaming, and she wakes up from her vision, and she's scribbling, kind of cutting into a Bible. And Judy's kind of snapping her out of it.
Yeah, Judy never saw anything. It was all just a vision inside of a vision.
Inside of a vision, inside of a movie that we're... Anyway. So, in Enfield, England, people are now becoming aware of the Hodgson's haunting. And there's press and paranormal researchers that get involved. Some are skeptical, some are more invested, but they gather a news crew eventually, and they interview Janet and Margaret, the little girls. And during the interview, Janet begins to look uncomfortable, and then she just starts speaking with the voice of an old man, like a raspy, nasty voice, who says his name is Bill Wilkins, and he's 72 years old, and all he wants is that everyone leaves his home.
Yeah, he's pissed. He's like, this is my house. I don't know why everybody's here. He's like, where's my family? Like, he sounds like a confused old man.
Right. And that happened, and it was broadcasted live. So that was really interesting. So later on at the neighbor's house, the children are all asleep. And Billy again has an encounter with the crooked man. And as he kind of escapes the crooked man down the hall, what we see as the shadow and hear the footsteps coming down the hall, it's Janet, and she's kind of possessed, and
she's talking in that like a really raspy, nasty voice. Not the old man, but she's singing the little crooked man song.
Yep, and then she screams and passes out, and she's foaming at the mouth and stuff. So Janet's having a rough time. It's basically what we're getting at.
Janet is the focal point of all of the haunting, possession type stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. So a priest then goes to the Warren home, and he plays an audio recording of that interview with Janet for Ed and Lorraine, and asks for their help. And while at first Lorraine is hesitant, they eventually decide, maybe they should go and try to help them out. So they do. When they get to England, the Warrens, along with one of the paranormal researchers, Maurice, and other crew members, they decide they're going to try to communicate with the spirit. So they put Janet in the chair that there's been some activity around, and they start to ask to speak with whatever presence is there with them. And Janet tells them, it says it'll talk to you if you turn turn around. It's not going to talk while you're all looking at it.
Yeah, she said Bill didn't want to speak with everyone looking at them, so Ed was like, all right, well, we'll turn our backs, and then you do your thing.
So we get this shot into the, towards Janet at the chair, and we see Ed.
Yeah, Ed is like the focal point, and then, in the background, kind of blurry, is her sitting in the chair.
And she sort of transforms into Bill and is talking. Yep. It was pretty cool way to do it. It was so blurry you couldn't distinguish anything, but
you could tell it was you could barely tell that it was an adult man.
And they asked her to hold a mouthful of water the entire time, so that way that they could prove that she's not just some ventriloquist or something. So that was really cool. So basically, Bill just explains, he died in that chair, right?
He died of a hemorrhage sitting in his chair, and then he told him that, and he also started just saying some random shit, just kind of, a bunch of words all jumbled together, and didn't really make any sense at the time. Yeah.
Eventually, Ed shows him the cross, and he goes away, and it was a very cool scene, and it kind of leaves everyone kind of convinced, I think, at that point. So later they're talking to the other investigators about all the evidence they've gotten, and one of them, Anita, is still really skeptical and thinks that Janet is still just playing a kind of game, and so that causes her to be skeptical, and Ed is kind of considering it as well.
Yeah.
So another night, the kids, they hear noises coming from the kitchen, and so Johnny, one of the little boys, decides he's going to go investigate and see what's going on. But meanwhile, the girls, there's a light that flickers, and Margaret screams, and when the lights kind of come back on, Janet is gone, right? And so she pops up in the kitchen, and she has a knife, and the door locks, and so she's in there with Johnny. The adults are then trying to get into the kitchen, and they hear things being thrown around, and the kitchen is getting destroyed, right? But once they get in there, Johnny and Janet are nowhere to be, they can't be found, right? They're gone. They find Johnny, he was hiding in the cabinet, but they end up finding Janet sort of contorted as a contortionist inside of the electrical panel in the wall, and she's just speaking this gibberish in that nasty, raspy voice of Bill.
Just a bunch of words jumbled together that, we don't understand.
Yep. So we then see Anita, who is the skeptical researcher. She shows the Warrens a video that was taken through the window of Janet, basically terrorizing the kitchen, right?
Yeah, she's faking something trashed the kitchen, and she's just throwing things around.
Yeah, she's just destroying everything.
Yeah, bending spoons, knocking the table over. It's all just her.
Yeah, so they're saying she's been faking the whole thing. It was kind of evidence for that. So Peggy, the mom, she kind of she gets mad and sends everyone out of the house. But later, Janet tells the kids that, whatever presence is with her, I guess it's Bill or whatever, it told her that it was going to hurt her family if she didn't get rid of them, basically.
Right, yeah. She claims that it told her to fake that event so it would get the researchers out of the house.
So because it's kind of looking like, with that evidence, that it was all a hoax, the Warrens boarded a train to head home. But once they get home, or were they in a motel, or were they home?
They were on the train, I think.
Okay, they were on the train, yeah. Ed is thinking back, and he plays the recordings. He has this idea, and he plays the recordings that he's heard of the Bill's voice that was coming through Janet. And he realizes they're connected, and when he plays them together, maybe in reverse, kind of, or staggered, it says, "Help me, it won't let go." And then Lorraine is immediately pulled into another vision, and she sees the real Bill Wilkins sitting in a chair, and he's not this threatening looking. He's just a regular man, and she has a conversation with him where he's kind of speaking in a riddle, and so it's kind of, she doesn't understand it at first, right? Since it's a riddle. But this is a cool scene because she's talking to him, and you're completely emotionally invested, and then the nun appears right behind him.
Yeah.
And, symbolizing that, the nun has control. Exactly. Yeah, he's sort of a pawn, and the demon is the true threat. So they decide, oh shit, we need to go back there. It's not, the Bill is not the problem. So, and they're also trying to decipher what he meant by the riddle that he told them. So, Ed understands. He realizes they need to figure out the demon's name in order to have power over it. That's what the riddle was trying to say.
Yeah, that's what Bill was trying to do to also, help him.
Yep. So when they make it back to the house, the Hodgson's house, they find the family locked outside the house, and it's pouring rain, and it's very, very hectic. And Ed tries to break in through the back, and like lightning strikes a tree in front of the house, and it leaves this spike, like a sharpened, tree trunk, and it's the one that we saw in Lorraine's vision. And so he's trying to get in to help the kids, right?
Yeah.
And Lorraine is sort of stuck outside, and she's trying to figure out the demon's name, and she's like, wait, I do know this demon's name. And she realizes she already asked it for its name in her vision whenever she saw the nun in the house, and she scribbled it into the Bible. And she sees on the pages that the demon's name is Valak.
Yep.
With this new knowledge, she rushes into the house to go after Ed. Ed, when trying to help the kids, was blinded because there was a hot pipe, a pipe of hot steam is what I was trying to say, that sprays in his face, and so he's like he can barely see. But then he finds the room where Janet is, and she's standing like basically by a window, gonna be thrown out or jump out or whatever.
Yeah, she's possessed, so she's standing there, and the window just shatters, and she steps up onto it, about to jump off.
Yeah, and right in front of there is that
huge spike,
huge tree trunk
of the tree, and that's the same exact spike that Lorraine saw Ed impaled by in her vision.
So Ed, he kind of lunges to go grab her, and we're thinking, well, here, it's like we know he's not gonna die, but it was stressful, and Lorraine kind of reaches the room just in time, and she saves Ed, and she's trying to save Ed, and we see Valak emerges and is holding Lorraine back, but Lorraine's like, you know what, bitch, I've got your name now. And so she tells Valak to go back to hell. Don't you shouldn't ever leave my husband alone. And so he's condemned back to hell. I guess Valak's a he.
I don't know if demons have a gender, but
right. And he kind of poofs away, sort of like your own you did. So.
Oh God.
Don't say that name. So basically, Valak is gone. Janet is saved. And Ed did not get impaled by a giant stake.
Unlucky.
And so, it was just in the nick of time. In the morning, everything has calmed down. And Peggy and Janet especially thank the Warrens. And then they return home, and we see Ed put the Crooked Man zoetrope in the Artifact Museum. End of the movie.
That's a sick-ass artifact. That's another thing that I want. Like, those things are so cool.
Just you want like a replica of that?
Yeah, with the little jingle and everything.
Yeah.
Super, super sick. But yeah, like most of these movies, another happy ending.
Yeah. No
one even died.
Yeah, I enjoyed that one, but I don't know if I enjoyed it more than the first Conjuring.
I mean, that's fair. Like, that's your opinion.
Yeah.
But objectively, this is the best movie in the Conjurverse.
I really liked La Llorona. Like, that one was so...
So, yeah, your opinion means nothing. La Llorona is trash. But yeah, this movie is super good. It had the best scares, like, the little jump scares. Because if you do watch this in a perfectly quiet setting in the dark, those jump scares are going to get you.
So much better than La Llorona. I mean, it was ridiculous. They were actually... I was like, man, that's really good.
Right, yeah. And... yeah, especially if you were watching them in a theater, a really loud theater, like those scares get you.
We'll talk about it next week, but the Devil Made Me Do It knock.
At the very beginning of the movie. I mean, that shit doesn't get you. Like, these movies don't get you, when you're sitting at home and there's distractions and people are also in the house. But it's good scares.
So what would you rate this movie?
Oh, fuck. I would probably give it, almost a 9. I mean, probably like an 8.8, I think.
I think mine's an 8.3, and I don't remember what I rated.
The Conjuring.
The Conjuring.
I'm thinking 8.5, because I think I may have gave it an 8. But we're going to make a tier list.
Yeah, we'll make a tier list, because we don't have our list yet. So we'll go back and get our list, see if it makes sense. Probably won't.
No, yeah, our ratings started off just wrong, and things didn't balance out quite correctly.
But you can get our initial gut feeling.
Exactly.
From
yeah.
them, so.
But once we watch the rest of them after next week, we'll have a tier list for sure that we'll post. But yeah, really good movie, best Conjuring film in my opinion.
Yeah. You want to go into some of the really real spooky stuff that happened?
Yeah, absolutely. This one did have. So this one is kind of like labeled as the most documented haunting in history because of the media attention they got, the amount of paranormal investigators. Like I'm pretty sure there was 15 to 20 like IRL that investigated this house.
Mm-hmm. Ed and Lorraine just being a couple of them.
Yeah. Ed and Lorraine wasn't even the big dogs at the show. Like they didn't investigate it the most. They were actually barely there in terms of like some of the other guys. But the Hodgson family was very real. All those children were very real. The locations, all the names of the investigators were all true. Janet and Margaret actually played with a Ouija board before all this stuff happened. The scene where Penny gets Penny.
What the hell is
Penny?
Penny?
A minute. Peggy.
Penny Hardaway. Just
when Peggy goes in there to tell the girls, to calm them down because they're freaking out. She actually didn't even make it into the room before she saw the dresser slide and slam the door shut. And that's truly when Peggy was like, holy shit. Mm-hmm. So that scene was fairly correct.
Accurate.
They said what they had called Peggy in there for initially was that their beds were shaking, like just shaking, not levitating, but shaking. And their dresser drawers kept sliding open just by themselves. And so that's what prompted Peggy to come in there initially. But they did like peace out and went to their neighbors and called the cops. The movie was pretty true.
They just had their script written for them, basically, or their storyline written for them.
They called the cops. The cops came. They searched the entire house looking for intruders, as cops would do. A constable, one of the constables that showed up did say that a kitchen chair moved unassisted, no strings. They checked it. Because they're skeptical.
Did it say it levitated like an inch off the floor or something like that? I thought I read that somewhere.
I think so. Yeah. But just they said it moved about 4 feet across the kitchen floor by itself, and the female constable was like looking for wires and stuff, couldn't find anything. And then they left. They're like, hey, they're like, listen.
Well, I've done all I can do.
We can't do anything about this shit. But we did see that chair move. We'll tell people. So strange happenings just kept on going and going for, almost 2 years with, furniture would get overturned. Toys were thrown, of course, banging noises all throughout the house in the rooms that they weren't in. They said like writing would appear on the walls.
That's kind of cool.
Kind of creepy. And then
it depends on what it says.
That's true. It might just be trying to chit chat,
You cute, beautiful.
Cute. Call for a good time. 1-800-666. And then of course they do claim that, like in the movie, Janet levitated, and she. So there are pictures of Janet, quote unquote, levitating.
The real life Janet.
And they're just horrible. Like it looks so obvious in the pictures. Like you can piece them together. Yeah. Like they didn't even take singular photos.
Yeah.
They took multiple pictures, and it looks like she just jumped off the bed.
Yeah.
So you can't use that as evidence because it's terrible.
We discussed, and I'll give us credit for it, but it was really me who came up with the idea. How it would have been a better way to make it appear like you're levitating is to jump up, fall on your back onto the bed, and then take the picture when you're bouncing up.
Yes.
That way everything is rising up.
I mean, you could definitely make a good one by just jumping and then getting your body in a position. Yeah. But you just take one picture. You don't take snapshots over and over and over again, because then you can literally see her. You got like
a photo finish.
Right. You can literally see her in different points of her jump. And yeah. Very, very stupid. So levitating didn't happen as far as I'm concerned. The photographer swears that she was levitating. He's a lying piece of shit. So the two paranormal investigators that we saw in the film, such Maurice Grosse and Anita, They were two of the first on scene, and they did most of the initial investigation. Maurice was 100% convinced it was a poltergeist, and he said that multiple times, like toys, he said specifically Lego pieces and marbles would fly across the room and hit him, and he also said that they were hot, like to touch, like burning hot, like out of the oven hot.
So sick.
He also said that a t-shirt, while he was in the kitchen by himself, a t-shirt just flew off the table and flung to the other side of the room while he was just standing there alone. And he was like, holy shit. And also want to point out that at no point in time during the haunting, when everything was happening, no one ever thought it was a demon. No one, like, it was always just a poltergeist, because, you know, a poltergeist is just something that physically moves shit around and does things more on the physical side. Mm-hmm. So no one ever thought it was a demon. No one was ever possessed. Mm-hmm. Just a straight up poltergeist. So probably the most terrifying and debated part of the whole haunting was Janet kind of being a voice for the spirit,
a conduit.
Right. Yeah. She wasn't technically possessed. She wasn't possessed like they try to portray it in the film. Yeah. She was just like a conduit, just used to speak for Bill Wilkins. Like, that's the real guy. That's the real name. She did stay on recording that I died of a hemorrhage. I was 72 and I died in this chair. That's on audio recording. And that fact checked out by Bill Wilkins' son. Who was like, yep, that was his apartment, and motherfucker that had a hemorrhage in that chair.
It's like, Dad, you look different, Daddy.
Damn, I'm gonna be honest, you look like an 11-year-old girl. Fucking punches him. And well, actually, we'll go ahead and play a little bit of that just to hear it. Yeah. Some parts of it do sound like a girl making a grungy little voice. Some of them sound creepy as hell, and I wouldn't think an 11-year-old girl that wasn't specially trained to be able to make voices like that. I'm going to be honest. But we'll go ahead and play a clip just so, you guys can hear it.
I want you to tell me whether you remember what happened to you when you died. Just before you died and just after you died.
Days before I died, I went blind. Then I had an hemorrhage, and I fell asleep, and I died in a chair in the corner downstairs.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, some of it doesn't sound super convincing, but what also is kind of freaky is that she did accurately say how he died and where he died.
Right, yeah.
That's my biggest, like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But some of it does sound really creepy. Like I said, I don't see how an 11-year-old untrained child would be able to do that well.
Yeah, or would maybe willingly, or just do it just for, I don't know, just for fun, right? That
yeah.
Sounds, I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it would have to be a special circumstance for a child to practice that. Mm-hmm. But who knows? Children do crazy shit all the time.
Yeah, no. I don't think I can do it.
So, like I said, this is like the most debated part, because she did say that Bill generally refused to speak unless the girls were in their bedroom with the door closed. She did speak in front of them with the voice, for sure, like that recording. But other times when they wanted to speak to Bill, she wanted to be not seen, kind of like how they did in the film. So that's a major red flag. A couple other people that not paranormal investigators, but one was a magician, one was a ventriloquist. They did, which was that makes a lot of sense. Good job bringing the expert.
What the magician got to do with it?
I don't know. But the magician did say that Janet, he was a non-believer, 100%. He's like, this girl is clever beyond her years, and she is fooling all of you. That was what he said. And the ventriloquist said the same thing, basically, like, she's a fucking good ventriloquist.
Yeah.
in that, like I said, that's kind of hard to believe because it was a poor single mother with 4 kids. She didn't go to like a fancy performing arts school, like, whatever, so.
Did they ever make any money off of any of this?
Not a ton. They didn't get any money for this movie. Like, I'm not sure what kind of deals were swung, but no, they didn't get a bunch of money.
Right. I'm saying, what's the is there financial money?
Exactly. And after she didn't move, obviously they didn't make a bunch of money because Peggy never moved out of this house.
Yeah.
So, Anita, the paranormal investigator from the film that was the skeptic, she also was like, this is a hoax. They're just doing this for fame and fortune. And another thing is the girls actually did get caught faking, phenomena. And that's another thing that is a big red flag and is another reason this is seen as a hoax.
Yeah. She said,
and later on, in interviews that Janet has done in the past like 15 years, she said that, they kind of did it for fun. Like they would fake stuff just to see if they would get caught. Right. And she said they always did.
Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, oh my God.
So, that's another thing. It's like, well, shit. And like I said earlier, Ed and Lorraine really did not do much here. They didn't have to help them. There wasn't a demon. They did come in and say, you know what? This is real. Like they did believe that it was a real haunting and it was a real poltergeist. Ed stated, quote, "Those who deal with the supernatural day in and day out know the phenomena are here, and there's no doubt about it." So, even though Janet, like I said, admitted to faking stuff and poking fun, at the investigators, she still says that the years spent in that house were just horribly traumatic. Took a huge toll on her mental health. She spent time at a psychiatric hospital after she moved out of the house. And then I think that all the kids, they didn't spend much time there. They moved out about 5 years, after that haunting. But Peggy stayed. She never moved. And I couldn't find absolute evidence of this, but apparently she died in the chair that Bill Wilkins died in.
Yeah.
Don't know if that shit's true.
That was at the end of the movie, though, and if they put that in there and it's false, then
that would be kind of cringe. Yeah.
Right.
I could not find proof.
Yeah.
I couldn't find any evidence to back that up, but they did. The movie did stay at the end in the credits that Peggy died in that house in the chair.
That's sick.
But
wait. It's not sick.
Whoa. She died very young. That's fucked up.
No.
She was like 50 or something. But the events had died down like after several years, and Peggy just reported that she still would hear some sounds every once in a while, a little banging around, but nothing ever crazy. But yeah, I mean, like I said, this was one of the most documented cases. There was a shit ton of personal accounts from not only the family, but investigators and reporters that went there. So tons and tons of personal accounts. The only evidence per se that was caught was the voice of Janet. Pictures were trash. But we had, I like this one a lot because we had a lot of seemingly unbiased accounts. Police officers, paranormal investigators, reporters, they're not getting gain from saying that they witnessed shit. So, no fame, no financial gain. So, yeah, lots of shit went on here.
It made for a good movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Makes for a pretty cool story and a really good movie. But yeah, I think there's just so much shit that was seen and talked about in that fucking house that I'd like to believe but something happened there.
Yeah. Rip Bill Wilkins, man.
Rest in
and
peace.
Peggy Hodgson.
Yeah.
Shout out you guys. You guys were the driving force in this movie.
Bill really carried. I mean, Bill had some of the coolest damn scenes.
My house.
So good.
Yeah, really good.
Rest in peace. Hey Bill, if you're out there, just give me a shout.
Actually, not in my house.
In his house. We're recording it at his house currently.
So thank you guys for listening.
Yeah.
This was a really fun week. Really good movie. We had fun last week with a really bad movie, but this week was...
Yeah, we had fun with a good movie.
Yeah.
And it's Halloween.
And it's Halloween.
Spooky time.
Yeah, again, happy Halloween. we just wanted to thank you guys again. We've actually we're over 600 almost.
We've seen a huge boom in listens recently.
We boomed.
We don't know where the hell the traffic is coming from. We've had a few comments saying that people have found it on Spotify.
Yeah,
and that's awesome. That is sick.
Yeah,
I am completely blown away by the amount of listens we've had. You know, over 600, almost reaching 700, close to it. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
My expectations for when we started this were, hopefully we get like 10 in a week or something. Like hopefully we just get a few listens every episode.
Yeah.
But,
and we just really appreciate it. If you guys, if you guys are enjoying it, send, like we've said before, if you put a comment on
dude, those comments are sick.
A YouTube video, or if you tweet at us at FFQ Podcast, or on Facebook, Far From Qualified, we will respond, and we do enjoy seeing that
is
positive
crazy.
feedback. It's really cool.
Yeah, just seeing a comment for something, that's ridiculous. Never thought anybody would listen to this, so
yeah,
super stoked.
Thank you all, and we're looking forward to our projects in the future, and we'll keep you guys informed on socials.
Next week is the last episode, man. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
We've got some stuff planned for after the series is over. We're so grateful for how much you guys have listened.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a lot of fun making this one, and can't wait for future podcasts.
Absolutely. Thank you again. Happy Halloween.
Happy fucking Halloween.
We will talk at you next week.
Next week.
See ya.